Okay, good evening, everyone. So we're here to talk about writing chapter 2. I know this is long overdue, so please bear with me as we go over this slide. Okay? So chapter 2, ito yung laman ng chapter 2 natin. So title ng chapter 2 is Research Design, and then the subsections are your research method and techniques of data gathering. Then you have sources of data, respondents of the study, procedure of the study broken down into the construction of the research instrument, validation of the research instrument, administration of the research instrument, and finally, statistical analysis of data. Okay? So, anong ilalagay natin for each part of your chapter 2? Okay. So, sa first part, which is the research method and techniques of data gathering, you have to identify what type of research will you use for your paper. Okay? So, meron tayong qualitative or quantitative. So, if you can remember, may pinost na ako na about qualitative research and quantitative research dun sa ating GC. So, this is more of like a review already of that particular um, information that I passed on to you a while back. Okay? So, qualitative is less on hard numerical data and more on abstract information. So it's more of descriptive, observational, conceptual, and analytical. So sa qualitative, madalang kang makakakita ng survey questionnaire when you're using qualitative data. Kasi alam naman natin na sa survey questionnaire, normally, pre-select, kumbaga pre-prepared na yung mga selections nyo or yung mga items na to be checked by your respondents. Pero sa qualitative research, it's more on question and answer, more on open-ended questions. Okay? Like, um, how do you feel about this? Ganyan, for example. Or what can you say about this? It's more of an open-ended question. Okay, so basically, most qualitative research uses interviews, whether in an individual or as a group, more on observations, and some surveys. Minsan pinapayagan natin ang surveys. Kung medyo mas mahaba ng konti yung ating information na kinokollect from the respondents. Okay? Now, pag quantitative naman, ito yung mga iba't ibang klase ng quantitative. You have the experimental research methods. Meron tayong tinatawag na true experimental, wherein you have the pre-test, post-test control design, the post-test only control group, and the Solomon 4 group. So I will just be giving the handouts for this in terms of expanding on these particular topics para mas maintindihan nyo. We will no longer deal into the details of all of this. Okay? Kasi masyado nang mahaba. Quasi-experimental, you have the non-equivalent and the time series. And the pre-experimental, which is the one-shot case study or the one-group pretest post-test. Meron din tayong tinatawag na non-experimental research methods in terms of action studies, comparative studies, correlational studies, developmental studies, evaluation studies, meta-analysis studies, methodological studies, need assessment studies, secondary analysis studies, and survey studies. Now, paano natin i-word yung research method and techniques data gathering? So, once you have already identified what type of research are you going to use for the study, you now have to prepare the content of this section. So, this is an example of how you can word it. So, this study used, so this is already past tense. So, take note ha, dapat lahat ng mga tenses natin, since it's still a proposal, puro will be pa rin. Okay? Future tense pa rin tayo. So this study will use survey approach of conducting research. Specifically, it utilizes the descriptive study and correlation procedures. The principal purpose of the researcher is to discover how the groups of respondents assess the interpersonal and interpersonal competencies of school managers and how to find out the relationship of these competencies to the school's effectiveness. So, in the first part, you will have to identify, state nyo lang, bakit, anong klaseng research method ang ginamit nyo or gagamitin nyo for your particular research and state why it is being used. Okay, bakit yun ang research study na gagamitin nyo for this particular study. So, the research method was supplemented. So, ito, additional information about the descriptive method. Okay? Explain natin, expound natin, bakit natin siya ginamit dito sa paper natin or sa paper na ginagawa ninyo. Okay? Finally, pwede nating ilagay ano ba ang description or definition ng descriptive research based on what authors have said. Okay, so based dito sa material na binibigay ko sa inyo, si Gay, 1976 is defined descriptive research as, tapos also Travers, 1978 added that ganito ganyan. So basically, what you should put in your research method and techniques of data gathering would be, how do you describe the general method you will use in your proposed study? Why did you choose this research method? And summarize how will you conduct your study. So this is what you should place in your in this section of your research paper. So research method and techniques of data gathering. Yan yung ilalagay ninyo. Yan yung guide ninyo. Anong research method ang ginamit nyo? Anong definition ng research method na yon? At bakit yun ang pinili nyo for this particular study? Okay, so that is for research method and techniques of data gathering. Second one is, of course, your sources of data. Na-discuss na natin to ilang ulit na rin in the past. So you simply have to state in this particular section, where will you get your data from and what type of source it is. So for example, this data will make use of primary data collected from survey questionnaire, interview, whatever it is that you're going to use in order to collect that primary source. Okay? Or secondary data from books, encyclopedia, and all that. And tertiary data from, ganon. Ganon ang paglagay lang ng sources of data in your chapter 2. Okay, so I hope that is clear. For the respondents of the study, so this element of the research design discusses how the subjects or respondents of the study are selected and how an appropriate sampling method is chosen. So remember guys, nung ako ay nag-uumpisa pa lang tayo sa inyong title, lagi kong tinatanong sa inyo, sinong target respondents nyo? Sinong target market nyo? Sino yung balak nyo pagkuhanan ng information nyo for your study? So ito yung tinutukoy natin dito. Who are your respondents of the study? Okay? Now, for the respondents of the study, the population, meron tayong tinatawag na population. This is composed of persons or objects that possesses some common characteristics that are of interest to the researcher. Okay? So, for example, ang population natin na gagamitin would be MDC students. So, yun yung ating population. Pero, meron din tayong tinatawag na target population and the accessible population. Anong difference nitong dalawa? The target population consists of the entire group of people or objects to which the findings of the study generally apply. Whereas, the accessible population is specific study population. Okay? So, halimbawa, sa ating population or target population, we want to, ang ating target population can be MDC students, di ba? So, pwede naman na in terms of the accessible population, pipili lang natin criminology students, or BSPA students lang, or high school students lang, or junior high school students lang. Lahat ng high school students, meaning combined junior high school and senior high school, yun yung pwede nating masabi na accessible population. Okay? So from the target population, you get the accessible population. Sila lang talaga yung involved dun sa study na gagawin mo. Right? So, for example, okay, in a study about the common difficulties encountered by senior high school students in the technical vocational track, in their on-the-job training in Region 8, all senior high school students enrolled in the technical vocational track are the target population. Okay? So for this particular study, common difficulties encountered by senior high students in the tech voc, right? So generally, ang ating target population are the senior high school enrolled in the tech voc track. Okay? While as yung ating accessible population, okay, are maybe those only enrolled within a school or the district. Okay, so pwedeng buong region of 8, yun ang aking target population. Buong region 8 na senior high school students enrolled in TVEC, TechVoc track. Pero pwede akong mag-accessible population kung saan pipiliin ko lang yung specific school, pero nasa Region 8 pa rin, nasa specific district. Halimbawa, that can be my accessible population. I hope you got that. Okay? Meron tayong tinatawag na parameters. Ito yung mga criteria na makakapag-join nitong mga target population para siya ay maging accessible population. Halimbawa, pinili ko TechVoc, yes, from this particular school, pero gusto ko babae lang. Pwede akong maging gano'n na parameters. Depende sa study na gagawin nyo. Or, yung mga nag-OJT lang sa ganitong klaseng facilities, sila lang yung kasama sa aking accessible population. Now, most of the time, yung mga kukunin natin na accessible population is also known as your sample. Okay? So the sample is a subset of the entire population or a group of individuals that represent the population and serves as respondents of the study. Meron ako laging ginagamit na sample or example para sa population and sample. Mahilig ba kayong kumain ng lansones? Okay? Yung lansones na prutas, paano natin malalaman bago tayo bumili kung yung lansones na binebenta ni ate ay matamis? Okay? Paano natin gagawin yon? Paano natin malalaman na matamis yung lansones na bibilhin na or binebenta ni ate? Okay. So, ano gagawin? Usually, ang ginagawa natin ay kukuha tayo ng isang piraso from the pile of lansones that is on the table. Kukuha tayo ng isa, titikman. Minsan, yun na rin yung ating reason or yun na rin yung magiging basis natin for buying or not buying the lansones kasi natikman natin yung sample nung product na binebenta niya. Okay? So, pag nagtikman natin, syempre magagalit naman si ate kung halimbawa titikim ka lang naman, isang bugpos na yung binili mo ay kinuha mo para magtikman. Well, malulugi na si ate doon, na magagalit na si ate doon. Kaya, ang ginagawa lang ng karamihan, naglilimit na lang sila. Okay? Naglilimit lang sila ng isa or dalawa para matest kung yung sample niya or yung product niya ay matamis or hindi. So, yun yung sinasabi nating sample. Yung isang pirasong yun yung sample of the population, which is the pile of lansones in ate's table. Okay? Now, meron tayo in research how to determine the sample size. Okay? Hindi lang tayo nanghuhula ng sample size. Meron tayong ginagamit na formula. And for this case, we are using Slovin's formula. Okay? So, it is used to compute the sample size. This is by Sevilla in 2003. This formula is used when you have limited information about the characteristics of the population and are using a non-probability sampling procedure. Alright? Ngayon, malalaman natin mamaya yung probability and non-probability sampling. So, for Slovin's formula, ito yung kanyang formula. N is equal to big N over 1 plus big N E squared. Okay? Where n, the small n is your sample size, your big N is your population size, and the E is the desired margin of error. It's usually 1% to 5%. Pinaka-maximum 5%. So it can be between 1%, which gives us a 99% margin of uh, margin of error. Okay? Ibig sabihin 99% correct yung ating population. And 5%, which means 95% chances of magiging error siya. Okay? So, paano tayo magko-compute? So, for example, calculate the sample size for the population of 8,000 at 5% margin of error. So, what is the given? The given is the population, which is 8,000. So, ito na siya. And the margin of error is 5%, or kailangan natin siyang i-convert into decimal points. So, paano natin ginagawa yon? From the decimal point or the percentage sign, magmo-move lang tayo ng 2 spaces to the left. So, 1, 2, period dito, magiging 0 yung sunod. Kaya tayo merong 0.05. Okay? Now, ano yung N? So, transposing, ibibigay natin yung mga given dito sa ating formula. 8,000 over 1 plus 8,000 times 0.05 square. Okay? So, una natin gagawin, of course, is the square root. Square root sa ito. Okay? So, 0.05 times 0.05. So, magiging 0.0025 times natin yon sa 8,000. Magiging, ang makukuha nyo ay 20. So, 1 plus 20 will be 8,000 over 21. Or, pag kinompute natin to will be 380.95. You have to round off to the whole number kasi wala namang 0.95 na tao. You get 3.81. So, ito yung magiging sample size ninyo for your study. Okay? Let's do another one. Sample size for a population of 1,200. Okay? Tingnan natin kung kaya ko magsulat. So, N equals, the population is 1,200. Okay? Over 1 plus 1,200. Ang hirap times, ang margin of error ay 3%. Okay? So, paano natin igagawin yan? Magiging 0.03 squared. Okay, equals. Ano yung 0.03 times 0.03? Let us open the calculator. Saan ako? 0.03 times, 0.03 times 0.03, you get, alright, so over 1,200, 1 plus 1,200 times 0.00, tatlong 0, and then a 9, times 1,200, you get 1.08, so you get 1,200 over 1 plus 1.08 equals, okay, that's 1,200 over 2.08. So, ilan yon? Okay, so 1,200 divided by 2.08 is 500 76.92. Okay, so as I've mentioned earlier, wala naman tayong 0.92 na tao. So this will become 577. Okay, yan yung ating sample size. Alright? Okay, so do it again, this time for 10,000 at 1% margin of error. Okay? So, magiging 0.01 times 0.01 is 0.0001 times 10,000. Okay, magiging 10,000 divided by 2 is 5,000 ang ating sample size. Okay, so madali lang tong sample size. Okay? Alright, then we'll proceed to the next one. Alright, kinds of sampling. So, nabanggit na natin late kanina. Paano baburahin ito? Excuse me. Okay. So, sa sample size, tapos na tayo sa sample size. So, nakita na natin kung anong sample size ang gagamitin natin. We have to now identify anong klaseng sampling ba ang gagamitin natin for our study. So, there are two kinds of sampling. You have the probability sampling and we have the non-probability sampling. For the probability sampling, so this is the type of sampling in which all members of the population are given the chance of being selected. So this is also known as your scientific sampling. Okay? So meron tayong apat na klase. We have the simple random sampling, or also known as the lottery method or the fishbowl method. We have the stratified random sampling. It's divided into strata. The cluster sampling, which has the larger groups, whether regional or districts, and the systematic sampling, so this is applicable to more larger groups, okay, which means national, ganyan na level, okay? So sa simple random sampling, ito yung pinakamadaling klase ng sample wherein, remember meron tayong sample size kanina, from the pool of names na meron kayo, pipili ka lang doon using the fishbowl method, pipili ka lang doon ng, kunyari, yung kanina, ilan daw yung sample size natin doon sa kanina? Babalikan lang natin saglit. Okay? 381. So, yung 8,000 na names, gagawan mo ng listahan. Tapos, parang pa-Christmas, draw lots, ganyan. So, meron kang ilalagay na 8,000 names, ilalagay mo siya doon sa fishbowl. Tapos, pipili ka ng pangalan na 381. Kung sino yung mapipili mo, 381, yun yung ilalagay mo or kasama sila doon sa yung sample. Sila yung magiging respondents mo. Okay? For the stratified random sampling, almost similar siya sa pag-compute doon sa sample natin kanina. Sorry, I'm moving forward. Okay. Yan. Maggaganito din tayo, pero divided into strata, meaning to say, kunyari, MDC students, we have 2,000, sabi mo ng 2,000 plus students dito sa MDC. Pipiliin ko lang yung 381 na estudyante, pero I need the number of students per college. Okay? Anong ibig sabihin nun? Halimbawa, meron na naman tayong annotation. Halimbawa, di ba 2,000 yung population kanina na sinabi ko. This is the MDC students. Okay, pero kailangan ko, sabi mo ng 381 yung na-compute nating sample size. The sample size na ito will be divided dun sa 4 na colleges kasi MDC students ang kailangan ko. So, meron tayong representatives from HECRIM, meron tayong representatives from COTE, meron tayong representatives from SIBAT, okay, meron tayong representatives from high school. Now, how do you know kung sino-sino or ilan-ilan from each department will you get to complete the 381? Okay? Ginagamitan niya ng stratified random sampling. It's a combination of percentage, and the Slovene. Okay? Ginagamitan ng percentage. So, if you have that kind of study, please let me know para alam ko kung paano kayo tutulungan. So, cluster sampling naman, yung mga tipong regional studies, district studies, 4th District of Pangasinan, halimbawa, isasama nyo siya. Ilang population or ilang sample ang kukunin nyo per district or per region, ganyan. Kasi masyadong malaki na yan. Ginagamitin pa rin natin siya ng Slovene. Okay, same is true with the other sample size. Alright, so next. Then you have the non-probability sampling. Excuse me lang. Okay, the non-probability sampling naman, this is the process of selecting respondents in which the members of the entire population do not have an equal chance of being selected as samples. So, meron din tayong apat na klase. We have the convenience sampling, also known as accidental or incidental sampling. So, and then you have the quota sampling, and you have the purposive sampling, and the snowball method. Sometimes, these sampling methods are used together. Kunyari, convenience quota, purposive convenience, purposive quota, ganyan. Pinag-combine siya kasi kailangan siya for that particular study. Okay? Now, if you're going to do convenience sampling, ito yung madalas ginagamit for product sampling, ganyan. Okay? Paano mo malalaman, or the sample is yung respondents mo will come from people who accidentally or incidentally crossed or passed by your booth at a particular moment na ikaw ay nagko-conduct ng study. So, yung mga product development studies, ito yung isa sa mga sample methods na ginagamit para sa inyo, para sa study nyo. Kasi hindi nyo naman alam kung sino yung dumadaan sa pwesto nyo para during the time na ikaw ang magsasample. Okay? So, what do you usually do? Magse-set up ka ng booth somewhere, tapos, pipili ka. Siyempre, may dumadaan sa booth mo. You have to now identify sino dun sa mga dumadaan sa'yo would qualify for your study. So, convenience sampling, halimbawa, wala ka namang criteria na hinahanap. Basta dumaan sa booth mo, nag-sample ng product mo, they're already part of your study. Convenience sampling ang tawag doon. Pero, halimbawa, nag-limit ka lang. Okay, nag-limit ka ng 50. Okay, 50 ang respondents mo. Okay, 50 respondents. I'm sorry sa dogs. 50 respondents. So, 50 na tao na dumaan sa booth mo. Okay, yun yung, pero meron silang criteria na hinahanap. Criteria, halimbawa, estudyante lang ng MDC na dumaan sa booth mo, sila lang yung ika-count mo as sample. If somebody else that does not fit your definition or does not fit your criteria, hindi mo sila pwedeng isama as sample or as respondents of the study mo. Okay? Meron ka lang specific quota. Okay? Same is true with the purposive. Meron kang pinipiling criteria or parameters in terms of selecting your respondents. Okay? Babae or office workers. Okay? Sila lang yung papasok sa study mo. Hindi kailangan na convenience sampling. Pwede kasi na purposive sampling ka pero hindi ka na convenience sampling. Meaning to say, talagang sinadya mo silang puntahan for your study. For example, ang study mo ay involving teachers. Okay, teachers. Ipapasample mo sa mga teachers. Hindi kailangan na sila, may booth ka mismo na doon sila magpupunta. Pwedeng ikaw mismo na alam mo ang features, ang target population mo or target respondents mo, ikaw mismo, pwede mo silang puntahan sa mga offices nila to have your product sample or your product sample by your target respondents. Okay? So, yun. Sa snowball method naman, ginagamit ito usually sa mga studies na medyo sensitive yung topic, for example, prostitution or mga drug addicts, alcoholics, ganyan. Madalas hindi naman sila identified or kilala sa society or kaya mga prostitutes, may study ka about prostitutes, ganyan. Hindi mo naman kilala or hindi naman lantaran um, yung identity nila sa mga tao. So, yung kumbaga yung respondents mo, hindi mo kilala kung sino-sino sila. So, what do you do is, you ask people who are also um, prostitutes, halimbawa, prostitute ang topic niya. May kilala kang isa na prostitute. Okay, ang gagawin natin, magtatanong tayo dun sa kilala mong prostitute kung may kilala pa ba siyang ibang prostitutes. That way, you build your respondents. Hindi ka lang nag-iisa lang. Ay, may kilala ako, yes. O, may kilala. Pinakilala. Ito will lead to another person who knows that person hanggang dumami na yung iyong respondents. Okay? So, in formulating the respondents of the study, the following elements must be properly discussed. The total population and its parameters, the sample and its statistics, the sampling method that you use, okay, with references to support it, an explanation and discussion of the sampling method, an explanation of how the sampling is done, and enumeration of the qualifying criteria, plus the profile of the respondents. So, what you put in here is, of course, ilan ba ang total population? Okay, discuss natin doon. In terms of the target respondents or target population, ilan ba lahat talaga? Pero ilan lang yung kukunin mo? Okay, based on the sample and based on your computation, ilan lang yung kukunin mong respondents for your study? And why did you choose those kinds of, or why did you choose them as your respondent? I-discuss mo kung bakit. Okay, if you involve a particular sampling method, dun sa diniscuss natin kanina, did you use probability or non-probability sampling, i-discuss mo din dito. Okay? How did you choose your sample? Eh, bakit 10? Bakit 15? Bakit 20? Bakit tigta 10? Bakit ka nag-50? Okay? Kailangan ma-justify nyo in your respondents of the study kung bakit nyo sila napili. Alright? So the procedure of the study will be next. So I will be discussing that na in the next video. So if you have questions, please let me know para ma-discuss din natin ulit. You can start working your chapter 2 na dapat para ready na kayo for submission by the end of the month. Okay? Next video na lang ulit.